Going live, babe.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to today's conversation with myself, my co-host, Enolia. Say hi, Enolia.
Hello, everyone. It's so great to be here at today's conversation.
And to our beautiful guest, Junie Moon.
Hello, hello. So good to be here.
Thank you, folks, for joining me. And thank you for those who are watching us live. Today's conversation is going to be about the shadow side of love. Now, Junie is actually a love coach, and it's her choice of topic. So, Junie, we might as well start with you because, okay, we talk about the shadow side of love, but some people may not quite understand what that means. So do you want to just what you feel that means?
Yeah, it's a huge topic, and there's so many different ways to look at it for sure. When I talk about shadow, I'm talking about the parts of us that have been repressed or cut off, a part of us that we think is not acceptable in us. And we bring that with us into these relationships. And so my shadow is going to be dancing with my partner's shadow sometimes. And that can be really challenging when it comes to relationships. So here we are wanting to have light and beauty and connection and love. And then some of the old stuff comes up, the unhealed stuff comes up, and it can seem really painful. And so I call that the shadow side of love, that there's healing to be had. And in this container of partnership, we come to it with some baggage, and it can feel really dark and painful. And so the shadow side of love is about shining a light on that and hopefully resolving it within ourselves and being able to connect with each other in a deep, intimate, authentic way that feels right to us.
I couldn't agree more. Enolia, do you want to add to that or?
It's a beautiful way to look at that because yes, we all have our past experiences and we bring that to the relationship. And if it's not healed, it is challenging. There's just no questioning about that. And we all go through the iterations of this. I don't know that anyone can say that they don't bring some of their past scenarios from previous relationships to their current relationship. And the key is can we acknowledge and recognize when we are reacting or responding to our partner, knowing that what happened is that the partner hit an old wound and that the partner hit something that has us react how we would react from our previous relationship. And then the fact that if we can recognize it, can we recognize that it was a hurt or a trigger that we've encountered that we need to heal. So this is a great topic, and this is something that I believe everyone can really benefit from hearing. So we're excited to have you, Junie, because I want to really dig into this one.
Yeah. And there's like that overlay of the shadow of the relationship and what we may not be seeing with I get triggered, he gets triggered, then we trigger each other, like all of that. And then there's our own personal journeys and the shadows we've picked up along the way because of our life. And so, when it comes to partnership and love, we're bringing that bag and my ex-husband, I'll call him my husband, used to say we can't go crazy at the same time, because if we go crazy at the same time, we're in big trouble. And sadly, that's what happens a lot with me and my partners. We kind of go crazy at the same time. One of us, our wounds get triggered, and then it triggers the other person's wound. And right now we're actually in it as we speak. It's like, it's hard, it's painful. But the opportunity when you have a safe container is you can look at it and hopefully heal your own shadows in this, solid place of love.
Yeah, Ria, when you said this topic, I was thinking taking the things right back for me. So it's not a relationship with a partner, but actually it's a relationship with family, with friends, with brothers and sisters, parents, grandparents, because the hurt that was caused by the hospitalization and then not being able to come and spend any time with me, or very little time with me, made me feel unwanted, unloved, not good enough.
Yeah.
And then when other things crop up, like a baby sister who died, that felt like another rejection. And then the sister that came along after that, every whimper they went running, which meant that it felt like they loved her and they didn't love me. And just anything that occurred that made me feel other people were loved and I wasn't. And then marriages, relationships, boyfriends. Oh, we've lost Enolia. She'll be back. All of those type of things. It was just, okay, I never expected love to last. And therefore, those triggers you were talking about, if somebody triggered it, as you know, as I put in the write-up, you then find yourself saying things, doing things that actually create that self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
Yes.
It can go back that far with people. Don't underestimate what happened in your childhood, although it could be about relationships with boyfriends, girlfriends.
Yeah. When we come out, I say we come out sideways. You know, it's like when we say things we don't mean, when we do things that are out of our character, like, oh, I can't believe I did that. When we find ourselves acting in a way that is just not the way we want to be, that's typically what we call acting out of shadow, that there's a repressed part, there's energy that hasn't been expressed, or we haven't learned how to be with it in a healthy way. And that energy has to go somewhere. So if there's been a hurt or we're not feeling good enough, and I'll use the example of what I'm going through right now, you know, there was something that happened with us and I wasn't feeling like he was understanding where I was coming from. And so I kept trying to explain where I was coming from. And I got frustrated because I was feeling like, oh my God, he doesn't get me. He doesn't really get me. And that goes back in time when my husband wouldn't listen to me and wouldn't allow me to express my opinion and where I was coming from. And it was really painful. So whenever my partner now, when we're in it and I feel like, oh my God, he's not getting me, that's when my energy will rise and I'm going to try even harder. I hope if I say the right thing, he'll finally get it. And of course, then it just spins out because then he sees me as badgering. When is she just going to shut up? You know, I can't have to get so difficult, you know, and then of course I'm here seeing him going, oh, she's too much. And then of course, new triggers. So it's like, okay, what inside me feels like I'm not being seen or heard? How do I take care of that little girl that feels invisible or stomped on or whatever it is that's happened in the past, so that when these things happen with him, it's like, okay, how can I express myself in a different way so we're not snowballing into this craziness that sometimes we go into?
Enolia.
So yes, you're absolutely right. And it's interesting because I believe that we've all experienced that. I'm sitting here thinking about with my husband and having that trigger. One of my main triggers is that he was always a person that taxed me financially. In other words, if I made a purchase or anything, when did you do that? How did you do that? Why did you do that? Where did you go? How much money did you spend? And it was just this diatribe and of questions, you know, which always made me feel pinned to a corner of having to justify it when I worked full time and there's absolutely no reason why I should have to. You know, I earned it. I worked for it. Why should I have to explain myself? And it's interesting because when I went into my current relationship and then my fiance would basically say, oh, so, you know, that's nice. How much was it? And I went into the whole defense of, why are you asking me? What do you need to know for? Why do you need to know? I can afford it. I can do this. I could do it if I want to. And all he asked me was a question.
Right, right.
And to bring that whole complete baggage that I was carrying from the previous relationship, I saw it right then and there. And it was like, wow, you're right. All you asked me was one question. He goes, I don't care how much you spent. You know,
Yeah,
I don't care about those things. Why are you acting like I attacked you?
yeah,
And I caught myself, and it was just like, wow, because my previous relationship, this is how it was. This is what I expected. And here's the key thing. I anticipated the answer. So the other piece of this is that when you want to heal these things, but you anticipate the reaction and the answer, or the reaction that's going to come from the other person, you literally deliver what you have to say in a way that that anticipated response is going to come back, which actually triggers that anticipated response.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it reminds me
So,
of something that Tony Robbins shared, and I'm not going to do it justice, but I think it was somebody that was going door to door selling something, let's just say vacuum cleaners, and he just kept getting no, 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 no. So he went to the next door, the person opens the door, and the vacuum cleaner salesman goes, "Oh, just forget it," because he just totally like expected another no, and that's what we hold, and so that's just a day's work for that person, but we have a lifetime of experiences that have given us information that have laid down beliefs and programs, and of course we don't want to feel pain. We're wired for survival, and so that we call it the risk manager in shadow work, that part of us that's on guard to make sure we don't get thrown under the bus again. It's like, well, wait a second, you asked me that question. It's like, whoa, I only asked one question. But that risk manager was like, there it is again, and ready for the fight. But good for you for spotting it. And that's the thing is we want to be able to spot it faster, have a shorter duration, not have it affect us as intensely, and be able to move past it more quickly. So awareness is key for sure.
absolutely.
I think one of the things when I was going through, if you like, my healing process was I actually I said, right, I'd like to go and see a psychotherapist so I can get an understanding of why I was behaving the way I was.
Yeah.
How I'd gone into this creating that self-fulfilling prophecy of relationships do not last. And it was just, but one of the things, because it was just like I tried to explain to my mother, but of course we've got to realize is obviously everything for me started with family, with parents. And I was trying to explain to my mother what I'd gone through, and I really didn't feel listened to and heard, which actually was also a big part of problems. It really was that not feeling listened, which of course it was. I was crying my eyes out as a baby in hospital, so I wasn't feeling heard. But then, and I just said to her, I said, not to my mum, but to the psychotherapist, but she just doesn't understand. But the comment she came back with was, she doesn't have to understand, she loves you anyway. And I think this is also something to hold on to, if you like, is that, yes, we can go into these, yes, we can try and explain to people. And sometimes it feels like we're not being heard, when actually the truth is they really don't understand because they haven't had the same experiences we have had.
True. Yeah.
So it's not a matter of that you're not heard. They really just don't understand. It doesn't stop them from loving you. And
yeah,
I think
that's a great point.
that is something to hold on to. Is that if somebody truly loves you, as much as you have tried to explain what may be going on, and there's something, something that's occurred to me, not obviously it didn't help me with any of my relationships, but And I'm quite happy being out of relationships. But who knows what will happen in the future. But what occurred to me was just being able to sit with somebody, learn about their story, learn about what's happened in their life, give them the honor of listening to them and hopefully trying to understand, and then encourage them to listen to you. Because when you know what's gone on in somebody's life, if a trigger gets hit, then you're in a better place for both of you, and hopefully they are as well.
Yeah.
To then be able to deal with that trigger in a much friendlier, kinder way for yourself as well as them. That's just a thought that from stuff that's come up relatively recently.
No, I love that. And, you know, it brings to mind, like I'm seeing a trauma therapist myself right now, because there's some things that I need to do some healing work around. And he pulls it apart to look at things from a contextual versus content versus context. And I love the context of there's love and the content of there's a wound here and I need to be understood, you know, and to relax in the context of, wait a second, there's something greater here and we want peace. And he may or may not understand where I'm coming from, but there's love here and he's doing the best he can, versus I'm going to just come out of this shadowy place and try to focus on this one piece. And maybe if I say it in a different way, you know, and that's where we get tripped up, you know. And let us all have compassion for the fact that we do have these wounds. And sometimes it's not as simple as, well, we're just going to look at context. When right now we're like, ouch, this word hurt me, or this specific thing affected me. Let's just call it what it is. Relationships are challenging. Let's just like call it right now. Like no matter what your situation is, no matter who you are, no matter how much you've done work on, when two people come together, whether it's friends, parents and children, whatever the dynamic, we come to it as individuals with our bag of uniqueness. And sometimes it's challenging. So,
well, you're absolutely right. And I'm sitting here listening to you. And so one of the challenges that I found that helped me work at healing the situation is setting some ground rules of, you know, first of all, when you get triggered, acknowledging that you're triggered. Okay, when you said this triggered me. And one of our ground rules in our relationship is go to the vulnerable place, which is, okay, instead of just saying, well, you pissed me off, I basically can come forward and said, when you said this, that brought me back to my previous relationship. And in that relationship, what would happen is this, and this, and that's what triggered me when you said X. And so I'm just telling you now that it really hurt deeply because I haven't figured this out yet. Nice. And because I haven't figured this out yet, I reacted to you. So I need you not to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need you to work with me and understand that this is the pain place that I go to, and this is what I realize. And if you can go to that vulnerable place too, to say that when I responded to you so negatively or so aggressively because you hurt me, that I pissed you off because, and maybe we both have our pain places. And then if we can just meet in the middle without putting on the facade of I'm strong enough to handle anything, or I can't get hurt, you can't hurt me, because the reason that you're having the connection of not coming together is because you both are hurt.
Yes.
And so if we can just play the ground rules of go to your vulnerable place first and listen to one another.
Yeah.
You can find that amazing things can happen. And that's the ground rules that we actually set for our relationship.
Nice.
That's how we get through, because the other piece thing is, one of the things that you mentioned, Junie, and you also, Sara Jane, is that when you don't feel heard, seen, loved, listened to, all of those aspects, if you don't feel those things, you're going to go right back at it constantly until you feel that that criteria has been met. And when that criteria has been met, I feel seen, I feel heard, I feel loved, I feel these things, then you feel like, oh, I can rest this case. They understand. So these pieces are just really, really important. And I think the number one thing that a couple, whether it's partners, whether it's family, whether it's friends, is listen and hear.
Yeah.
Not just listen alone, but listen and hear. And the other piece of this that I think is crucial is stop attaching emotion to what has come out of somebody's mouth before you even finish hearing it. Because we attach emotion to it and we want to attack it. We want to do this. We want to react to it. And if we could just hold back that reaction and fully listen, a lot of progress can be made.
Yep. And that takes a lot of courage for people to be able to be really real, to be able to go into a vulnerable place. And that's why the intention of connection, the intention of growth, the intention to get back to love is huge. Otherwise, it's just two egos trying to get their needs met and prove right and wrong. And that's where it gets tricky. That's where it gets tricky. I love that. Really well done. Really well said.
I think it's really, the truth of the matter is that we've all got to the age we've got to. We've gone through the experiences, and our path, for want of a better way, has supported us with coming to an understanding. We've grown enough, we've developed enough. I don't like necessarily the word changed, but sort of enough has happened to us that we've got an element of understanding. And that makes it very difficult for those who haven't quite got there yet, or if you're a member of your family, partner, friend, whatever it is, isn't there. It really is, but the listening thing, that having conversations and trying to keep them as calm as possible. And it is that remembering that everybody, when they comment, is coming from that place of what's going on within them, not necessarily having anything to do with you.
Yeah, exactly. Good point.
Absolutely.
So, Junie, when we sort of decided we're going to have this as a topic of conversation, you said that learn 4 main love shadows that hold you back.
Yeah.
And discover how to break through to the next level. Can we take one at a time and maybe?
I was just going to say that. Let's do one at a time. That'd be wonderful, because there's so much to talk about each one.
And sort of perhaps there's some input that can be from us as well. And as I said, I know we've got sort of some folks watching. So if you've got any questions or any comments, please feel free to put them into the live chat. It's welcome.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So let me just say that the body of work that I'm speaking to is shadow work. The founder of this particular body of work is Cliff Barry and Mary Ellen Wallen, and they created this personal growth opportunity, and they identified 4 main archetypes that encompass the human personality, the totality of who we are. And when I dove deep into this work, and because so much of my work is about helping women in midlife claim this stage of life and love on their terms, I noticed certain patterns that had to do with the 4 archetypes. And I went, these are love shadows. So the 4 archetypes: magician, sovereign, warrior, and lover. So let's start with magician. So the magician is about our ability to have perspective and to be able to see through things. Like we've been talking about, like, oh, they're triggered, I'm triggered, that awareness, right? And that's a healthy way to be. It's like, oh, okay, wait a second. When he said this, this brought me back to this moment in time, and now I'm feeling all of that's great. When there's a lot of wounding in the magician energy, where maybe we've been shamed in the past, maybe we've been shut down, or we got told that there's something wrong with us, that we're bad, we now have a lot of charge in this particular arena. And I mentioned the risk manager. So there's this part that's like, oh, I got to make sure that this bad stuff doesn't happen again. That was painful. And so what happens is we just keep stepping back and stepping back and stepping back to make sure that we're seeing everything we need to see. And then we start ruminating and our brain starts going. And that totally gets in the way of us being able to relax and connect with somebody, because we're so in our heads. We're so scared that we're going to fall down the rabbit hole. So the love shadow in the magician realm is that overthinking, over controlling, over manipulating so that we don't get hurt. So that's the love, that's the love shadow in the magician realm.
Enolia, do you want to comment?
She's right on point. And a lot of us who are, well, I don't want to generalize. Let me refer to me as the academic, me as the person that thinks about everything and looks at everything in 360 degrees. Okay. You're absolutely right. We look at it, we overthink it, and what I learned is in my healing of it was stay simplistic. Stay simplistic. Be honest, right? You talked about charge of words. This is really important because there are certain words that just trigger you and you have charges with and you don't understand why. And maybe it's a past life. Maybe it's something that happened to you in your past. Like for me, it was like, obey. You will do this. You will obey me. Now, I don't know if it's because I was a child in a household full of adults and all I had to do was, all I ever was told to do was what to do, how to do it, and when to do it in a house full of adults, and I had to obey. Or is it because of my background as an African American and the history that we've gone through and in my lineage, that word obey? I mean, it could be a series of things. And I realized I had a charge with that word.
Yeah.
And I had to release it. And I actually was able to release it. But you're absolutely right. We have to acknowledge and recognize what it is that gives us a charge that really just shifts us to that shadow side and want to stay there.
Yeah.
And not work with it because it's easy to stay.
Yeah, I was just an overthinker with everything because I went into people pleasing mode.
Yep.
And this is what I love about these conversations is because we all come from different perspectives, different experiences, etc. And it's perfect because hopefully we can speak to so many more people. But I was a people pleaser, so I was constantly in my head.
Yeah.
What can I do to make people happy that they may like? Didn't even go to the love. It's they may like me until they wake up and realize that actually I'm not likable and lovable at all, because that was how insecure I was. And how many people out there are and became that insecure from whatever happened and still are that insecure. And for me, the very first person you have to love, trust, care about, etc., is yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And until you can be true and honest with you, how the heck can you do that for anybody else? How could you have got to get out of your head and into your heart?
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
And I want to just add on to that too. This brings up a good point, and then Junie, I would love your opinion on this too. The projections of others that still bring you into that same realm, right? You talked about insecurity. Being around somebody that is extremely insecure, that projects all of their fear onto you. Being honest with yourself that you're not around the right person. So, for example, being around a partner who's insecure because they're jealous. They're jealous of this, they're jealous of that, and they project it onto you, and it's like, you did something wrong, you did this, you did that, you did the other. And the bottom line is you didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And not being honest with yourself to say, this person's got issues, and they're taking it out on me. Versus, well, I could have dressed better. Oh, I didn't act this way. And making excuses for that person to hold that insecurity or to hold that, and recognizing that it's coming from them and not necessarily from you.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
No. So I would love your thoughts.
Yeah, that's another whole segment. What are we doing this one? So the things that pop out with what you just said, the people that we surround ourselves with, the people that we draw into our life. I always say to the women that are wanting new love and having a better relationship, they need to do exactly what we're talking about, especially what you said, Sara Jane. We need to know ourselves. We need to love ourselves. We need to stoke our own fire and feel full, because otherwise we're going to be at the mercy a lot to their projections. So here's the thing. If we do have an insecurity, if we do have a part of us that feels bad and shame and there's something wrong with us underneath the surface, we are going to pull in somebody that's going to have a shadowy aspect of that challenge. And so it's kind of a yes and. So yes, you might be with someone who's very insecure and projecting their fear onto you, theirs. And why are we with that person? Why did we pull that person in? Because there's something inside of us. If we're getting triggered, because sometimes we can go, oh, there's that person having a challenging time and it's not mine. Let me love them up. However, most of the time when somebody's in their stuff, it's an opportunity for us to go, what is it inside of me that needs to be healed around this? So you mentioned the people pleasing, Sara Jane. That's a perfect strategy to reduce the risk of shame, loss, feeling bad, all that stuff. So we pick up all these strategies to manage our discomfort, to manage our I'm a bad person or something's wrong with me kind of energy. And so maybe I better just be careful. Maybe I should shut my mouth. Maybe. And that's where that overthinking magician wound keeps us from showing up fully and being in our open awareness, because it's running amok going, wait a second, I need to strategize here so I don't get hurt. Back to projection. So if somebody's projecting onto us their shit, the question is, why is this person in our life, and what's the value? Okay, that might be theirs. Doesn't make it that their behavior is okay. It's a shadowy behavior if they're acting in a way that's really not in alignment and beautiful and loving. What's going on inside of me when I see that? When I'm like, how dare they not understand me, or how dare they shame me in that way? It's like, whoa, wait a second, okay, now I'm on to me. Who's in my life? I pulled them in. Perfect opportunity to see what's in shadow in me.
And I want to elaborate on that, because that's a perfect segue possibly into a next archetype. I don't know or not. But one of the key things to learn if you're dealing with a relationship like this, the first thing to own is that it's not you. It's their shit. Okay? It is their stuff. And so when that person comes and they're in your life and they say, you did this and you did that, it's like, you know what? I just looked at the situation. No, I didn't. It sounds like you have some issues.
Yeah.
How do you choose to address them? Because this isn't mine. That's yours. A dear, dear friend of mine. Oh, I love her. Oh, Patricia, she was actually on here. What did she said? Here's the mirror. Own your shit. Let me mirror it back to you.
Yeah, yeah.
You said this, and this. That's not mine. That's yours.
Yeah.
That's yours. Own it and deal with it.
You're right that it goes into another archetype, and I'll just say it's the warrior archetype, the ability to separate you and me. I exist separate from you. That's yours. That's not mine. So healthy warrior can do that. It's like, okay, I'm seeing through this, which would be magician. I'm seeing through this, but now I'm going to take a stand and own what's mine. And that ain't mine. The slippery slope here, though, is the ego. And are we then having a blind spot of what might be ours? Because a lot of times when we are in conflict, it is just so easy to blame the other person as that's yours, that's not mine. And that's where we need to really take a breath and go, all right, they're acting that way. That is totally not mine. But is there something of mine I need to look at? And what can I own? So the warrior archetype is really about being able to know our truth and being really real about who we are separate from other people. Because if we aren't, then we're the doormat or we're the bully and we don't have healthy boundaries. And so that's the love wound, the love shadow in the warrior archetype is the inability to actually separate and to stand strong with what we know is true in our authentic self.
So that's really interesting. And I just want to interject here again. When that projection happens, a couple of things take place, right? So that projection happens, we attach an emotion to it, and then we say, it's mine. Oh no, they're telling me what I did wrong. And you automatically own it. And it may not be your truth. It may be your truth, but you're owning it so quickly that you're missing the point.
Yeah.
Right? You're just owning it, taking the emotion in and just reacting to it. But then there's the other piece of this that the projection is made to you. You don't attach an emotion to it and you go, interesting point. Is that me? And you take inventory of you and you go, no, that's not me. Or is it me? Yeah, that's me. I do that. But whether you do it or you don't, what is the agenda of the projection? And I think that needs to be taken stock too. Because if it's hurtful, why are you choosing to say something very hurtful? What is your agenda in saying that hurtful thing?
Yeah.
Okay. And even if it's to get a point over to me, then I have to own who I am and what I bring to the table when I look in the mirror and be honest with myself.
Yeah.
But if it's hurtful and it's an agenda just to be hurtful, it's like, sounds like you got a problem. You can make a point. Yeah, I do get angry sometimes, but you know what? That's something I've worked on. And that doesn't exist anymore. So what is it that you're really trying to say or express? And does that have really more to do with you?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a mature way of approaching it. And a lot of times when we're in those moments, we are so not in our adult self, you know? One or both are in their little kids, scared that they're going to die. You know, that's kind of what's happening. And I love what you're saying, because there's just so much truth there to be, you know, done the work, being able to see, separate, and throw the ball back into somebody else's court and go, I just am not seeing that, and I'm going to invite you to look at it. And then to go, you know, when I did say that, I know where that was coming from. It was coming from a hurtful place because this happened in the past. And yeah, sorry I said it that way. That's not what I really wanted to say. This is my intention. It's tricky. It's very tricky.
I think it's about really thinking about not reacting. Because what is it they say? React and create. They're the same letters, but boy, they can have such a huge different outcome. Because the reaction can create, if you're constantly reacting exactly the same way, it's that learned behavior.
Yeah.
And if something's happened, you react in exactly the same way you already have. Whereas if you can catch yourself, and it's just like, okay, what is going on here? What is triggering me? As you have said, Enolia, you know, it is very much about that. Can I catch myself? Can you give me some time to think about this?
Yeah.
Can you give me some space? Can I take myself off and just go into that space of what's going on in me?
Yeah.
What potentially is going on in you? If I react, we're going to end up with a blazing row. You're probably not going to like the fact I want to step away anyway. It's probably going to create a bit of a row anyway, but it's just remaining in that calm. And it's not easy. I don't think what any of us are saying here is any of this stuff is easy to do. It isn't. And if you've got somebody that this is happening with that is really not understanding the way we're talking, it is going to be a real struggle, and potentially it is going to be eventually the end of a relationship, a friendship. And I've had that with friends, you know, sort of, and I think we've all had it. We have all had it. It's just like, it doesn't matter what you say, they are not hearing anything other than destruction of a friendship, a relationship, or whatever.
Yeah.
You are never going to win with some people because they have not got to the space that gratefully we have. But it's taken us years. And obviously the reason for sharing is to support people to realize that there are reasons, there are ways. But you have to have that person on the other side of that who also is open. If they don't know about it, they're open to learning about it.
Yep.
You know, and I think that there's something to be said about owning the totality of yourself. And what I mean by this is that if I can sit here and say, okay, you know what? Yes, I can be a very angry person sometimes. Yes, I can be an insecure person sometimes. Yes, I can be that warrior, but I can shut down sometimes. And yes, I could be whatever that is for you. Whatever it is for you. I can go into my victim mode sometimes, whatever the case may be. Such that if we can own it, then when somebody calls us on it, we can basically sit there and go, yeah, you're right. I can do that sometimes. Let me just check and see if that's where I went.
Yeah.
Instead of reacting like, oh, how could you call me a victim? Or how could you say I'm angry when I know good and well I get angry?
Yeah.
Or I know good and well I get insecure. Or I know good and well, whatever the case may be. If I can own the totality of who I am and what I do and how I react, then maybe I can get past the emotional stage of reaction and I can take it to the next level of, yeah, I do that. Okay, is this one of those instances? And if it is, okay, why did I do that? Okay, I acknowledge it. I got it. And then I'm past my feelings getting hurt because I got called on it. Versus when I don't want to own it and all I want to do is react and all I do is go to a hurt place and how could you say that about me when I know good and well deep down inside, yeah, they just caught me being me.
Yeah, it takes a lot of courage to own our stuff, and it's vulnerable, which is the third archetype, the lover archetype.
There you go.
Which is the place where we want to connect with people. We want to stay open, and that's where our vulnerability lives. So if we've been wounded in this realm of, gosh, I can't trust to share myself because I was abandoned or I was slaughtered with words or whatever it is, I've learned to shield my heart and not open up. It's going to be really challenging to do what you just said. To not react, to take time to kind of go, what's going on? It's like, it's scary. It's that little girl that doesn't trust anymore, you know? And so, so when we have a wounding here, we've gotten a message that we don't know how to love right, or we're not lovable in some way. And so there could be the pushback where we can just like not be open at all and just, you know, I can't even hear what you have to say. You know, I can't go into my heart at all right now. That is way too scary for me. And I'm not going to give an inch, because the last time I gave an inch, you know, it was so horrible, you know? And so when we have the wounding in this realm, the love shadow of the lover, it's really hard to stay open and to drop into that vulnerable place that you're talking about. And so we need to build that trust up again. And again, it's not about the other person. It's about knowing that we've got our own backs, and that that we've come a long way, and that we have survived a lot, and that there's more to learn about healthy vulnerability. I call it strategic vulnerability, the ability to stay open in a way that is safe, or at least safer than we've experienced in the past. So yeah, being vulnerable, that creates intimacy. But if letting somebody into me see is scary, then there's going to be a fortress around our hearts. And we're really going to have a big challenge with separating and not reacting, or overly reacting, because we're trying so hard to connect. And I know this one well, because that's a big love shadow for me.
You know, I find that when I don't, though, history repeats itself. And I find that that lesson it changes the face, but it comes right back around for me to learn again over and over and over until I get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is, for me, the motivator and the incentive to just face it, because I want it to stop.
Exactly. I mean, people always say, "Ooh, shadow work sounds so scary," and looking under the covers at the monsters that I've pulled around with me. You know, it's like, isn't it really scary to not know what's back there? Isn't it scary to have the past being controlling how you're reacting and acting now, and not having a way to take back the reins? To me, that's really scary. And so to stop it, we have to shine a light on these patterns. And when we shine a light on these love shadows, we're able to go, oh, for me to open up my heart, I need to trust myself more. Oh, to be able to take a stand for myself and speak my truth, I need to know who I am separate from other people and have healthy boundaries. The fourth one being the sovereign, the part of us that knows our value. This is where our self-esteem lives. And so we've been wounded with a message that we're not good enough. Then we're going to be overshooting to try to prove how great we are. Or we're just going to feel like, why bother? We might as well just, let it go. So we need to be conscious of these four love shadows. Otherwise, we are repeating the patterns. We are causing the challenges in our relationships, and it's painful to us, and certainly painful to the other people that are at the mercy of our shadows.
It's that thing. Oh no, why does this keep happening to me? Because you keep reacting in exactly the same way to similar things that are happening.
Yeah.
Break that. That's why I said, it's, if you can catch yourself, if you can take a step backwards and look at it almost from the outside in rather than from the inside out. One of the things that was said to me by that psychotherapist, here, take my advice, I'm not using it. We are so very good at giving, so I try never to give advice. I make suggestions. If anybody gives me advice, I don't listen.
That's great. I love it. I just love here you go. I love that.
Yeah, but it's true. We will give people advice. We will say, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Do we listen to our own advice? It's that, here, take my advice. I'm not using it. Yet we're quite happy to give that advice to others. What I'd say we've done here is we are sharing from personal experience, with suggestions of what have worked for us. This is not advice. This is guidance. This is suggestions. You can use any other word, but not advice. It's one of those words that can wind people up, like how much did you spend on that? But just thinking about that. And I'm also very aware of the time, because this conversation, I'm sure, could go on for ages.
It absolutely can. It absolutely can. Oh my gosh. Well, before we end, I just want to ask Junie, is there anything else that you want to share with our audience before we close?
The thing that just comes to mind is, we're all human. We're human. We've all had experiences. None of us are immune to shadows. We're wired to survive. We're wired to stay safe and to not have pain, and we want to have amazing, beautiful, love-filled, joyful lives. And so we need to look at this stuff to take the power out of the shadows and take back our life in a conscious way. And it can happen. It does happen. I can't believe I have the life that I have right now. And I'm still working it, because again, I'm a human being. So my book, the subtitle of my book, Loving the Whole Package, is Shed the Shame and Live Life Out Loud. This is about taking the edge off, give yourself some compassion, be gentle with yourself, shed the shame. It's not going to work for you. It's a teacher for sure. And there's more. So just, be gentle and just keep doing the work, because it's worth it.
Thank you so much. And Sara Jane, any last words?
Be true to you. It's very simple. Just be true to yourself. When you can find the love for yourself and truly love yourself, you'll stop hurting yourself. Because the truth of the matter is, for me, the mind is the biggest hurter of you. As I have to say to my mind every now and again, excuse me, you're here to protect me, but you're the one that's hurting me right at this precise moment in time. Will you please stop it? So absolutely love yourself. Honor yourself, trust yourself, believe in yourself, and listen to your heart. And what I'd also say is, you'll find Junie's information under the video on YouTube. So if you're listening to it there, you'll find it there. If you're watching us live, it's on the website under the go into today's conversation within the giftofhealingtv.com website, and you'll find the bio for Junie and her website underneath there. I'm passed back to you, Enolia.
Yeah, and you'll find Junie's information also on my website, enolia.live, and you'll also find it on my YouTube channel under Enolia. Junie, we're so grateful for you to have been here with us. Thank you so much. And
Great conversation.
Thank you. And so that's another episode of today's conversation, and I'd like to share who will be here next, which is Anu Nadampali. She will be joining us November 12th, 2021, and she will be here at 5 p.m. UK time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 6 p.m. Barcelona and Africa time. So we hope that you'll join us, and her topic will be climbing out of the abyss with a positive attitude, and she'll be sharing with us her health journey. So thank you again for joining us on today's episode, and wherever you are, blessings to you. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.